I'm a very literal person. I'm the kind of person that when Luke goes into the grand throne room and Palpatine spins around, I'm thinking, what was he doing before this? Is there like a sandwich back there? Has he just been waiting for Luke to show up? That doesn't seem like, I think about that all the time. And so when I watched video mysteries with my husband, I after like 3 or 4 episodes of Father Brown, I'm like, why would anyone go to that church? Why would anybody go to that town? Like Miss Fisher, also a great mystery series about an amateur sleuth. If she showed up at my party, I'd be like, oh, Miss Fisher's here. It's going to be fun. I'm out of here because people die around these sleuths. And, growing up, we had the joke of Jessica Fletcher was the most successful serial killer because she would go a place, she would kill somebody, she'd solve it, and then she'd go somewhere else. So the whole idea of the amateur sleuth getting adventure after adventure, I just sat there and wondered, like, how would your friends treat you if that was happening to you? What if you dated somebody and that was happening to them? What if they came home to Christmas with you and your family and your next door neighbor dies? I mean, so she just had people push her away her whole life, and they didn't send her to space. She actually decided to go because it was a couple of years after we'd made first contact, but the other alien races were not terribly into humans yet, and so we weren't allowed to go to the space station. So she just basically asked for sanctuary, and it was a weird enough question that they allowed her to come aboard, and she tries to make a life there. It actually makes one human friend who also got there through a weird path. Essentially, he was picked up by a spaceship that thought he looked interesting, and then it went back to he was running away from something, so he figured, well, that's good. They really can't catch me here. So yeah, she and her friend Zan try to figure out like what they can eat, and communication's okay because they've got oral implants, but they can't read anything, and so it's and lastly, the station itself is a sentient being. The ship that picked up Zan is a sentient being. I got that from there's Farscape. I know there's more. I think the Leviathan series, the YA series, had a lot of tech and biotech creatures and machines and stuff. And so I've always liked that idea, especially, if you're a space station and you care about the people on the ship aboard you, but you're thinking on a level that is, well, not the human level. Like if you're looking at all your cells inside your body and you're thinking, well, yeah, I need all these, I want them to be okay. But if you had to get rid of a couple, give blood, you fall down, you bleed, whatever, you're gonna be like, okay, that's fine. In this world, that's the station, and the people aboard are cared about until something bad happens, and then the station's not so concerned with them anymore. More extraterrestrial than artificial intelligence. Although I do, in later books, I sort of get into where she gets her thinking power, but they're biological beings who can pretty much just change their interior to befit. There are parts of the station, stole this from Babylon 5, parts of the station for methane breathers, parts of the station that have a different temperature than humans prefer, things like that. And she can hear and hear everybody aboard if she wants to, but she needs a smaller person, like an alien of our size and mindset, sort of, to interact with her as a host, to help her make decisions, to explain things to her, to explain her things to the people on the station. And I sort of think of her as a large benevolent being, but whose problems are on a different scale than ours. And so Uh, this I didn't plan, but it just kind of happened where when things start to go down and people start to die, Mallory starts looking for station security. But there's another thing that's much worse happening. And station security is like, you're a human, you deal with it, which never happens to an amateur sleuth because you've always got to have the police officer there going, oh, stop meddling in my affairs. I know this better than you. And suddenly she's like, oh, because I know humans and I know murder, they're sending me to investigate this. Okay. So, looking at, I guess not looking as humans as the center of the world as we do. I mean, because we kind of are here on Earth. The station Eternity also makes, forces everybody to sort of look on a different scale. When I wrote the first one, I was not ready to have I was not ready to look at other aliens as suspects, because one thing I wanted alien about the aliens was that they did not look at the world the way humans did. So for them, perhaps a dead body is not horrifying, and death may not be horrifying or whatever. And but still, what happens is humans come to the station and then the murders start. And so it's Mallory has her own rules of how these stories go, which are essentially mystery rules. You're not going to have the murder is going to have some sort of connection with somebody they're traveling with. There's not going to be just a random murder. There's like a reason behind it, and it probably goes back years and years and years. And so she tries to learn how different people work together, to see if she can figure out the next murder. But also, what happens is humans get allowed on station, so they're coming aboard. And so I guess my intent was to have, if they caught a murderer and the station calmed down, they could turn it over to security, or they could just send them back to Earth and tell the Earth what they did. That doesn't happen. I won't give any more away. That doesn't happen. But I think that's the thinking of, if I catch a human murderer in space, here's what I do with it. In an ideal world where there's murder in space. I explained the story to a friend of mine, and I'm like, I just had this epiphany, and I said, but if I send her to space because murders keep happening around her and that's a key plot point, I'm going to have to say why, aren't I? And my friend's like, yes, you have to say why these murders happen around her. And so there's a lot of stories that say what we think of as the first contact. No, aliens have been here for a while, that kind of thing. So I don't want to give too much away, but Mallory discovers that she had an encounter with an alien when she was a child that helped her be a little bit less human and a little bit more just on the outside and reading how people fit together. And it's not a conscious thing because she doesn't realize it till she gets to the station. But it was really hard because, as I said, I'm a literal person, and I, kind of wanted to go past, well, if they ask this about this power, what is going to happen? What am I going to say if they ask this? But it's, essentially, she has a connection with another alien that gives her a unique perspective on humanity. And that is why people die around her. So it's a chicken and egg thing. Is she drawn to where murders happen, or is she the reason murders happen? So that's something she investigates. And I kind of had the problem in Chaos Terminal where I'd made some aliens pretty darn powerful, but they weren't malevolent, but they were pretty darn powerful. So I had to come up with a similar alien that has similar powers, but less malevolent and more chaos focused. So that's where the conflicts in Chaos Terminal come from. The ship conflicts, anyway. There's still a murder. you need to have all the major players need a motive. And so this means that all the major players are going to have some sort of connection, even if it's just like in Midsummer Murders, the guy was measuring acid in a field that I didn't want him there to do, so I'm going to kill him, kind of thing. So already the suspects have to be connected in some way. And in some mysteries, not all, but some mysteries, you have a connection with the amateur sleuth, gives them more of a incentive to investigate, especially if they're doing the not my job kind of thing. And I don't know, I think I do take some again, I take some high school angst and I just work through it by throwing in some characters and trying to file the personalities off just a little bit. And I tend to find characterization difficult. It's difficult on my end. I think I finally get it taken care of through some edits and get people interesting on by the final draft. But I struggle with it sometimes, and I do take / steal wherever I can. If there's a character I really like somewhere, I'm gonna wonder how they would fit into my world, and then take liberties, I guess. Everywhere from the four. I always said with Buffy the Vampire Slayer and with Sex and the City TV shows, if you looked at a script with the names removed, you should be able to tell who's saying what line. Those two shows were just amazing at making very distinct characters. And I just like watching what other people come up with and then kind of not stealing from them. In Infinite Archive, people are allowed on the ship now, and she discovers that, once the humans arrive, the humans are going to bring things like healthcare, and there's going to be some restaurateurs or some entrepreneurs or something. And she realizes, well, this may not be so bad if I can actually go to a restaurant where I know I'm not going to be served something that will kill me. And I kind of did this is the stress. Like the first book was, here the conflict is built around stuff that happened now or just a couple of years ago. And then in the second book, the conflict kind of moved around old friends. And now I'm a big fan of science fiction conventions. I'm going to ReaderCon in a couple of days. And I just realized the worst place for her to go, the murder magnet, would be a mystery convention. And so her agent contacts her and says, we've actually put a mystery convention on a spaceship, and it's going to be like a cruise, like a nerdy cruise, except it's a convention and a spaceship, and we're coming to Station Eternity, and when we get there, you'll get to give the keynote. And she's like, this is not my set of skills, and if you bring a mystery convention here, someone's going to die. And someone dies. But it was a lot more fun to realize that how mystery fans would be with Mallory and some other characters aboard. I can't even remember what my initial idea was, but the ship that's bringing them there spent some time on Earth and absorbed the entire internet. And so, it being a sentient ship as well, decided to build a lot of its levels based around the data it got. It's not you just go into a room and get a terminal and look up something like we do here. It is their entire floors dedicated to fanfic. There's a floor dedicated to cats. And that was so much fun to write because I was the kid who, again, I asked all the what's going on behind the curtain things. It's like, the holodeck doesn't make any sense. It's way too powerful. And they only talk about how powerful it is every so often. And so I wanted to make the whole ship kind of a holodeck, in that you see the humans, the real people, up on the convention floor, but if you go somewhere else, like the fanfic floor, you're going to encounter Lord of the Rings fanfic and Harry Potter fanfic and whatever people decided to make, it's going to be there. Now, my book is a cozy, and most cozies don't have a lot of sex. So I did have a chapter dedicated to Rule 34, which is if you've ever thought of anything weirdly sexual, the internet already has it. So that's the saying of what Rule 34 is. You can look it up. I'm not making this part up. But my editor had me edit that one down a little bit because it was just a little too much, which made me sad. But I kept Rule 34 in there, just they don't spend as much time in there. And it wasn't even like weird character sex. It was like other weird sexual things happening and very bizarre. But yeah, it's technically a cozy, so I'm not going to throw in stories like that. I don't want to copy Murder, She Wrote, but the thing is that no one will hire her. You know, word gets around when Mallory shows up, someone's going to die. So if she gets a job where there are lots of people, like at a grocery store or something, someone's going to die. And eventually, you know, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. So she is the introvert. She lives the introvert life whether she wants to or not. And that is, she takes the cases she solves and writes about them and then sells those. So it's once she went to the station and weird stuff happened, people started to realize that they were true stories, more or less, and got excited about it. But yeah, she writes books because that's all she can do. There's also not a lot of call for humans to work aboard the station, so she just tries to tell her stories. And so she has an agent. She's not really into obviously appearing in public to encounter fans or anything. There is a mega fan in the first book, and I was kind of wish he'd stuck around a little longer, but that's not how the story went. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's fun and it's easy writing about writers because that's me and most of the people I talk to. So dealing with writer angst, I know my editor didn't want me to go too much inside baseball, but you know, it was relevant. But I got to come up with with another author who's there as a guest at the mystery convention. He was a lot of fun because he's writing absolutely absurd noir novels about a Venus flytrap. So that was another thing that was just delightful to play around in. I'm noticing with a lot of books that are being published now, I need to stop worrying if I have weird ideas and just write the weird ideas, because there's so, like, half the stuff I look at, I'm like, how did Martha Wells pitch Murderbot? Like, there's a security unit, big old strong android that kills people, but it would rather watch soap operas. I mean, and Murderbot's huge. If you haven't watched Murderbot, watch Murderbot. When you get an agent and a literary convention, science fiction or mystery or something, and you get authors, that's a very rich mixture, especially if a lot of agents go to some of the big conventions to sort of look after their authors. And so you get all of this. There's already a lot of connections. Some of his other some of the other suspects are his other writers and someone that he did not pick up. And so I think just the fact that it could easily have been another author or the agent, but the agent really felt like the hub of a lot of connections. And I just thought, yeah, that's really why. But yeah, it was nothing against my current agent, not really anything against any of the other ones. I've just had a very weird history having literary agents. And so I don't think I projected, but maybe I did. I don't know. I'll have to ask my subconscious.